Hello everyone, welcome to the Hypergamous Journey. My name is Denise. At this channel we discuss dating advice from a hypergamous lens. Hypergamy is the cultural tradition of marrying a man of a higher social and economic level. Today I would like to discuss a Netflix movie that I watched last week called Collette. Collette. It was, I guess you could say, viewed in 2018 or released in 2018, and it stars Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley, you probably know her from a lot of the Pride and Prejudice, a lot of the Jane Austen novels. She's a very good actress, an excellent actress. And I think she kind of stays in the European period pieces, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I think that's kind of her specialty. Anyway, I'm going to do this movie review. And like I said, the name of the movie is called Collette. And it was released in 2018. And it takes place in 1892 in a small country town outside of Paris. So this town, I can't pronounce it. I won't even try. But it's a maybe 1 to 3 hour train ride from Paris. And I got my notes here in my journal. So it's about a 1 to 3 hour train ride from Paris. Keira is about 18, 19. She could be 16, 17, but she is educated. And it takes place in 1892. 1892 in a small town outside of Paris. She is being courted by a older gentleman. He is a famous writer in Paris. He looks to be in his 30s or 40s. He could be really closer to his 50s because I think this man was in the army or the military, the France military with her father. So this man is up there in age, but she is enamored with him. And so he comes courting her. And so that's where the movie starts. She's in bed. She's awakened by her mother telling her it's 7 o'clock. And she said, Willie, his name is Willie. Willie is coming. And then she gives this little smile on her face. So you know she's liking Willie. So I'm just going to do the highlights of the movie. You know, they say spoiler alert. The movie review is about reviewing it from a hypergamous lens. So there's an age gap relationship of 10 to 20 years between them. It's more than 10 because she's like 17, 18, 19 years old. And this man looks to be 40 or 50. So it's a 20-year age difference. So there's an age gap. She is educated. She knows how to write. He is a writer. And he is courting her. She seems to love him. And eventually, maybe 3-4 years later, they marry. So she might be in her early 20s by this point. Eventually, they do marry. And so she is from a small country town where she lived on a farm. She seems like she was the only child. So he marries her and introduces her into society, into high society. And her first event into high society, he buys her beautiful, kind of crimson red dress that would actually be the type of dress that you would wear in high society. Except that it has those corset things that you have to pull and somebody has to lace you up in the back and all of that. So it's a pretty dress, but she doesn't want to wear it because it's too much. effort. And she says it's uncomfortable. So she ends up wearing one of her country dresses. So when he introduces her as his wife, this like very high society, middle-aged woman says, "Oh, Willie, you got married." So he's introducing her into society as his wife. Then the woman says, "Oh, well, where are you from?" To Keira, "Where are you from?" And so she tells her the town, and she's like, "I've never heard of it." And so she says, "Oh, it's so-and-so and so-and-so distance away." And she said, and Keira says, "It's a small town." So she says to her, "So is that where you got your dress?" And so it's a stab. But Keira takes it on the chin pretty good. You know, she kind of looks and says, "Oh, okay, this is the kind of place of people that I'm going to be socializing with." And as the movie goes on, this man cannot control his, how does that I say it? His head is really big. He's not really writing anything. He's using people around him, writers around him, to ghostwrite his short stories and his books. But as soon as the money comes in, he spends it on on booze, on women, and on flashy objects, antiques. Basically, he runs through the money as soon as he gets it, and he pays his people sometimes, the ghostwriters, and sometimes he doesn't. In one of those financial crises, he finds out and encourages Keira to write. So she starts to write about what she knows, her life on the farm back in the country town 1 to 3 hours away from Paris. So he gives his edits, and so she gets better at it. And eventually, Keira, at first marries hypergamously. She marries a man who is of a higher social and economic level than her. He makes money from his ghostwriters. And I don't even think he ever wrote a book in the movie that he actually wrote a book. He had ideas that he would share with the ghostwriters, and they would take it and create a story around his plot, and then write the story, give it to him. He would edit, and they would go back and do the edits, and that's the way it was. And eventually he would give the book to his publisher, and then that's how the book got out. So he encouraged Keira to write, and she started writing about her life on the farm. Eventually, it became a series of books. Claudine goes on vacation. Claudine goes to Paris. So I think it ends up being a total of 3 books. Viewed from a hypergamous lens is that when Keira married this man, it was a hypergamous marriage. She was being introduced to high society. She was dressing the part, even though she liked more like covered up dresses, and but the fabrics got better. The style didn't change that much for her, but the fabrics became more expensive, like silk and satin and stuff like that. But the style didn't change. She still liked her old country dresses. They just were made in more expensive fabrics. So she created 2 books based on this Claudine character that she created, which is really her. And then he promoted it, like she got a certain hairstyle and a certain look, and they promoted it so well that the people in Paris were copying the style of what Claudine or Claudette, I think her name is Claudette, this fictitious Claudette, would look like. So it was a whole big marketing thing. But the thing was, Keira was getting none of the money from the books that she wrote and that he just edited. She was getting none of the money. And as soon as the money and the advances were coming in, he was spending it on other women, on antiques. He bought her a house eventually by the 3rd book, I think. The 3rd book, he bought her a house, But her name wasn't on the deed because at that time in the 1890s, women didn't own property, and she was property. Actually, she was property. So she couldn't have anything in her name. So then she has an affair with a female who dresses as a woman. I think her name was Missy. I get the names mixed up. But anyway, she became her lover. So there's some scenes in there of them being intimate with each other. But, you know, if you don't like that kind of stuff, it doesn't, you know, I'm accepting of all of it. And when it became too much, I just rewound it to get to the next scene. But to me, it wasn't too much sexual stuff between the women. It just wasn't. It was tastefully done, I thought. It was tastefully done. That's the word I'm looking for. And so this woman who dresses as a man, I guess back in the day when I was growing up, women who dressed as men, they were called butches. Now I don't know. Oh, now they're called lesbians. So forgive me if I'm not politically correct, okay? Forgive me if I am not politically correct. But yeah, so back when I was growing up, these women who dressed as men were called butches. Not a very good name. Now they're called lesbians. Let me know in the comment section if I'm right. So now women who dress as women who dress as men are called lesbians. So anyway, she had a relationship with this lesbian that lasted years. This is based on a true story that lasted years. And so the lover was putting encouraging her to be more independent. She eventually divorced this man, and but the relationship took a flip. It took a flip because he was getting the advances and the money from the sale of the books that she was writing, but he was spending the money as quickly as he got it. So she never really got any money. And then the relationship at that point became hypergamous because she had decided that she was going to write her own books and publish them under her own name and get the royalties and the money for the work that she had put in. So by this time, the relationship had switched to she was the breadwinner and he was on the bottom. So it was like a hypergamous relationship for her, meaning that he really wasn't as talented as she was, and he was hitching his wagon onto her wagon. And really, he was always hitching his wagon onto the ghostwriters, to his wife, Keira, because he never really wrote anything in the whole book. It never showed him doing any real writing of his own. He came up with the ideas, and there are people who have great ideas who can find people on their team. They're good at getting people on their team. They're good at encouraging other people to join their vision, to execute their vision. And this is what this man was good at. And there's a time and a place for that. But it usually doesn't benefit the woman to be doing all of that, to be actually a worker bee in her man's vision. She is there for support, emotional support, to say, baby, you can do it, but not to really be a worker bee like the ghostwriters were. And like Keira was, she was a worker bee. And it didn't turn out well for her until she decided that she was going to divorce him, be with her lover, and write books under her own name and get paid for them. So it didn't turn out well. And then she eventually, he had all of the drafts, because she used to write in a notebook similar to this, like half the size of this. So half the size of this, she would write in them, and she kept those books. And when she decided she was going to divorce her husband, he gave to his assistant or secretary all of the drafts of the books that Keira had written, and told him to burn them. And you know, in the 1800s, the main source of fire was the fireplace. that was a place of warmth to destroy things that you didn't want others to read or get a hold of. But this man, he was of African descent. So he gave them to her rather than burn them, because he knew who was really the author and the brains behind all of the books that were famous and written by his wife. So he gave those journals or those books to her, and she was able to use them as evidence that she was really the author of all of the books that basically he had gotten rich off of. And she eventually won the rights to the books in court. But to bring it all home to a hypergamous lens is this. In the age gap relationships, depending on how young the woman is, she can be very malleable and very flexible and very moldable for the older man. And then when she begins to develop her own personality and who she is as an individual, it can be difficult for her to extricate herself from that. The best thing to do when you're marrying so young is to first of all get a hold of who you are as a person and then marry someone, but have very good ideas and goals about what you want to achieve within the marriage, and make it a marriage that is to your benefit as well, and not only one that is what he wants and trying to please him, but making sure that you have gratification as well, and that you're taken care of as well, that you have some money of your own that's coming in either from him or independent source or both. And that when things when things go down, all of your eggs are not in that one basket, that you have a couple of different baskets in which money is flowing to you, and that is yours in case things go awry. And we hope they don't when we marry, but let's be honest here, it does. And it doesn't matter the socioeconomic level of the couple or the people involved. It just happens. So this movie was very good. It was thought-provoking and very interesting to see Keira go from a naive young woman, basically almost a teenager, marrying this very old man who was handsome, dashing, charismatic, who was just, screwing everybody that walked and talked. And her decision to stay with him in spite of all of that, probably out of necessity, because she didn't have her own money at that time. She wasn't writing any books or anything for him. So watch the movie. It's a good movie. It's a long movie, and I will put the link in the description box. Thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video or any of my others, please like, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. And thank you for watching. Bye.